Welcome to the Afternoon Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. Bradley returns to Carver Arena in a key matchup against league-leading Belmont at 7 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Chad Klein. If you've enjoyed the Braves Plus shows and you've missed a show or two, and you can now listen to those shows by going to WMBDradio.com, click on podcasts, and scroll down to Braves Plus for the full catalog of this year's interviews. Tonight's show features my conversation with women's basketball coach Kate Popovic-Goss about the differences in recruiting high school versus transfer players, Title IX, and coaching with her spouse and a new baby. All next on the Afternoon Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. This is the Afternoon Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. I'm talking to the women's basketball coach, Coach Pop. You came into coaching just as the transfer portal was starting, so you may have a different perspective. We've talked about the transfer portal some. It has created a change in how we recruit. Mm-hmm. It used to be you coached high school players and coached them through the process and they developed.
Yeah.
Now you're probably looking as much at transfers as you are high school's players. How does recruiting high school, or what's the difference of recruiting high school versus transfer?
So I think that the mindset is still the same. These are kids that have to come in and pretty much have an immediate impact on our program. Mm-hmm. Now, that immediate impact doesn't mean that you're going to be all conference the first day you step on campus. But when I recruit high school kids, I'm looking to kids that have all conference potential. It's really unfortunate, but gone are kind of the days where I take a kid I'm going to develop for 2 years and they're going to learn our system, and because we just don't have the luxury of that time.
Right.
And, you know, the truth of the matter is anyway, the kids don't really want to be that patient anymore. Everyone comes here and expects to play. That's just what they're told. That's what the environment has become. And so, you know, I think when we're looking at a high school, I'm looking at kids that if I don't feel like you can get on the floor in your first year, I'm probably not recruiting you because I need you to come in and help us right away, right? And it's the same thing with transfers. And then you're trying to find a blend of how they work together. But, you know, for us, I really still believe in recruiting high school kids because transfers are really expensive. Transfers also, in a weird way, kind of think they deserve more than they probably do, not even just in terms of the NIL, but in terms of the type of school they can go to or the league they can play in or, you know, those types of things. I can't tell you how many kids that are in the portal have zero stats and their first question is, how much are you going to pay me?
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, nothing, because I'm not recruiting you anymore. This conversation is over, you know? But also I think what that's allowed is I think a lot of high school kids have gone overlooked. And I think there's not been it sounds a little arrogant, but there hasn't been a year in my career at Bradley where people didn't look at a kid I recruited out of high school and go, wow, where did you find her? And I said, wow, on the same court you were sitting on.
Yeah.
And I'm really appreciative of my experiences at Northwestern because I didn't have the luxury of recruiting every kid in the top 100. Very quickly, I could go on the road and find 20 kids I liked, and of those 20 kids, I could recruit 5 because of the academic standards. So what we had to do is we had to go find the kids in the top 100 that wanted that high academic experience. And what was great about that is that they were usually very interested in a Northwestern. But I also had to go and really learn how to evaluate kids who fit Northwestern, who fit our system, that were those underrated kids. One of which is Veronica Burton, who was the 7th pick in the WNBA draft and was the most improved player in the WNBA this year. We were the only P4 that recruited her. And so I think it's all about finding kids who fit your system. But again, more than ever, I think there's a lot of kids that are getting overlooked, one of which is Maya Foz, who won 5 Freshman of the Week this year, scored 29 points at Murray State the other night. And again, I think that, it's allowed that. So I want to go get the best players for Bradley, whether they're out of the portal or whether they're high school kids. And again, though, I do think the one thing you can never underestimate is the value of experience. And you've got to have some experience on your roster if you're going to recruit talented young kids.
So you talk about Maya Foz. Let's use that as an example. And I hate to pose this question, but I think you've spoken to this a little bit before, but as a freshman, you want her to improve, but you almost don't want her to improve too much too quickly.
I mean, Does
that sound horrible?
Oh, it absolutely does. I joke with recruits when I see them and they play well and I know I'm going to offer them, that I hope they look like crap the rest of the summer, because I don't need anyone else recruiting them, or I don't need this school swooping in, right? But unfortunately, I was sitting on the couch the day before I had my daughter, watching my team play against Missouri, and Maya Fuzz dominating the game, going, crap, like, she looks great. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is weird. But I think just like anything, you've got to embrace the joy of the moment. You've got to root for these kids. You got to obviously hope they get better. And you also have to know that, hey, I think whatever they can give Bradley, whether it's in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, I'm going to appreciate that. There's just an understanding of a kid that can perform at that level. And then you get really lucky sometimes. And Maya Fuzz is a really loyal kid. Her family's great. They're very transparent. But it, inevitably, I don't know if the best players I recruit, I'm going to see a lot of them in other uniforms, and that's just the reality of it. And
you can't coach that way. You coach to make them the best player they can be, the best person they can be, the best student they can be.
And that's exactly it. And I think that you just have to embrace the now more than ever as a coach. And again, I think you're still coaching the same way. You just have to know that impact might not be for 4 years anymore. And that's just where we're at.
This is the F3 Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. This is the F3 Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. I'm talking to women's basketball coach, Coach Pop. Title IX. Mm-hmm. It is a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious of your perspective. And the reason I am is I'm a man, you're a woman. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have the same perspective or understanding that you do.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious about it. So a couple hot topics that are out there right now. And I'm just curious of your take. Men and women's sports. Mm-hmm. Do you have a perspective or an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. And I think there's room for everyone at our tables. I think that where things get lost in translation is if a woman isn't afforded the opportunity, and we hire men in that spot, just, okay. You know what I mean? And I think that's just like anything. I think that's when you look at Title IX and civil rights, I think that's why they're in place, is it's to ensure equity.
Absolutely.
Not equal. So we're not splitting it and going, okay, there's a man here, there needs to be a woman here. I personally like having men in my program, just because a lot of my players have been coached by men, have really strong relationships with their dad, or also might need a strong male presence in their life. Maybe haven't been afforded that, whatever it is. And again, it provides balance on a staff. I'm just looking for diverse experiences, whether you're a man, a woman, whatever. I think that it's important to have variance on your staff. But I think that there's room for men and women's sports. It's just, if we're looking at a woman with the same qualifications, or we're looking at a woman who has a higher level of experience, but you're getting this just because. And I think that that's more of the emotion right now behind the room, the saying, is there room for men and women's sports? Mm-hmm. I think it's any coach's prerogative. If they want to hire an all-women staff, all those types of things, great. I think also, though, what is happening is because of the demands, women are turning away from being in sports. And I think that what's really important for me, and it's really, really important, is that I show our team, and I'm an example that you can do this, and you can. I hate when people say you can't have it all as a woman. You can have it all. It just doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like. But listen, I am a head women's basketball coach. I have 2 degrees. I play Division I basketball. I am married to the love of my life. I'm raising a daughter. I have it all. Now, it's a disaster, but I do have it all. And you can't have it all at once, all at the same time, and it can't be perfect. But again, I think that there's a reason. There's a lot of women that are turning away from having these opportunities. And I think that it's really important to speak on that. So I hope I get to serve in that role. But I think there's room for everyone at our table. It just can't be at the sacrifice from having someone who's qualified being in that position being overlooked.
A little different perspective. You're talking about men and women's sports in different roles. Mm-hmm. I can totally appreciate that. What about on the floor itself? Do you have a perspective on that?
I do, and unfortunately, saying this out loud and verbally, it is what it is. But I think that issue, I think that we have fought really hard because of Title IX to create a space for women. to have their own sport. And it is their own, and it's beautiful, and it's wonderful. And I think that that's where it should remain. I think on the flip coin, the political issues and transgender rights and things like that, great. And I have no problems with that. But I think that at the end of the day, it takes away from the opportunities that we have created and fought so hard to have. And I think that that's it's important to keep this to what we fought for and what Title IX does, was originally created for, in my perspective.
So again, staying on the topic of Title IX, part of Title IX is creating, you talked about it already, equity within the sport. That could be scholarships, that could be benefits, it's like services available, facilities, and then obviously pay comes into it. What are your stances on that? Because there's arguments for men and women should be paid the same, regardless, or is it based upon revenues brought in? Where is the balance of that?
I think we're figuring all
Or
out.
are we still figuring that out?
I think we're figuring it all out in real time. I think that right now, the biggest thing I focus on is, do my kids have an equitable experience? And are they given the same opportunities to earn? Are they given the same opportunities to have a platform? Are they given the same opportunities to compete? Are they given the same resources to make the most of their experience? Again, I think in anything that you're talking about, equity and equality, it's a very fine line. And I think they get interchanged all the time.
Yeah.
Right now, it's, are you afforded the opportunity? And I think what the best thing that has happened in the past 5 years for women's sports is we have been put on TV. Because what people are realizing is, when you give women the opportunity, when you give them the platform, when you put a product on television, wow, people pay attention.
Yeah.
I also think that the reality is that we're still in the infancy stages of our sport and building, and it takes time. And, we've got to keep fighting, and we've got to keep pushing, and we've got to keep moving forward. But that's the biggest thing I pay attention to, is the opportunity, the investment. Is that the same? And I don't necessarily think that comes down to dollar signs and things like that. And I think especially at the highest level where that's really getting misconstrued is at the WNBA. They're not asking for equal pay to the men because they realize that right now they're not generating that revenue. They're asking for an equal pay structure. Most women.
Sure.
A lot of those women, the contract structure is they make so much less off the revenue than the NBA players do. So the top WNBA player isn't saying, I want to make as much as LeBron James. She's saying, I want to make the same percentage as to what he would have made out of his contract negotiations. And that's what they're working on right now. So I also think a lot of it is misperceived. But again, that's what equity is. You know what I mean? That's what that means. And, that's always the challenge and the advocacy for me. And it is really important because, I will say we have to advocate and fight a lot harder. And we still have to. And that's just like any group that's a minority or, it hasn't been afforded the same opportunities. But I think that that's what's great about collegiate athletics right now, as you're seeing in real time, man. There's a lot of investment in women. And how great is that?
I greatly appreciate your perspective on that. This is the F3 Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. This is the F3 Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. I'm talking to women's basketball coach, Coach Pop. So you have the unique perspective of coaching with your spouse, your assistant coach, Ollie Goss. Marriages struggle when couples don't work together. It is. You have to work at it.
Yeah.
How do you? But usually there's a place for people, for the spouses to go their separate ways.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? How do you do that?
So, I think Ollie and I have a really unique relationship. We met at work. We worked together before we started dating, before that. And to be honest with you, we were best friends. It sounds really corny, but I joke that we did our relationship in reverse. We knew all the bad stuff about each other before we started dating, so we kind of got to do the fun part next, which was, the honeymoon phase, like, oh, we're new at this relationship piece. But he knew that I was, overly organized, can be stubborn. I get impatient. He knew all that about me, you know, and I knew, similarly to him. So I think that that's helped us a lot. And all we've known is working together. So that's great. But, it definitely has its challenges, I think, just like anything, but we get to do it together. And I think that that's also the great part of it is we get to do this. We get to do all the great stuff together. We get to build this thing. We get to win. We get to raise our daughter here. And I think it's really special. I think, honestly, the hardest part is shutting it off. Yeah. And I think that that's something that we've had to do. And I think one thing we've also had to do is we've had to say to each other, and we've had to learn how to do this, is, hey, I need you to be my husband right now, or I need you to be my wife. I don't need you to be my boss, or I don't need you to be my assistant. I'm talking to you like this. And I think, to be honest with you, the biggest blessing is with him. First of all, he's got thick skin, man, because I'm hard on him. I'm harder on him than anyone else. But the second thing is also, in a way, I think it's really beneficial because he does know me so well. It allows him to help other people. And also, I think in a way it allows him to really help me. It was my first year when things were really hard here, and I had ruptured an Achilles and we weren't very good. And, all this kind of stuff, that he looked at me and he saw the way I was approaching this, and he saw how I was working, and he goes, you cannot do this and think that you're going to survive in this. Like, the way that you're doing things, it's unhealthy. And if anyone else had said that to me, I don't think I would have listened to them. But and a lot of times when he says things to me, I don't listen to him because he's my husband. But in that moment, I knew he was looking at me as a human being, right, and not as a coworker. And, so that's helped us a lot. But I think more than anything, just stepping away. And, if he wants to watch film at midnight, that's his prerogative. But if I don't come talk to me about the film, and vice versa. Right. And I think that we've had to learn how to set those boundaries. But more than anything, I think it's a lot of fun. And we have a great staff too, who really, who embraces that we're married, and you need that, because it's also not, I think that's the one thing too people don't understand, is it's not the easiest thing to come to come to work every day with people who are married. We obviously try and, leave that, we're not fighting in the office and all those crazy things, but like at the end of the day, it takes a certain level of confidence to come in and work in an environment where that we're married. And we've got a great staff, and that's been a lot of fun too. And
let's add another variable to the equation. You just had a baby.
Sure.
Would you like to introduce her, first of all?
My Mira Renee Goss. She was a 9 pound, 6 ounce baby.
9 pounds, 6 ounces.
Yeah. And she is now about 5 weeks and already over 13 pounds. So she's my little tank. Not so little, but hopefully she is a future post player. But no, she is our ginger chunk. But what a blessing she is. She's a healthy baby. She's a happy baby. And she's brought a lot of joy to our program. And, the girls are obsessed with her, and the staff is so excited about her. But it's been really amazing. We did our best to avoid a season child, but we had her on November 29th. And I came back pretty quickly after that. And but I think in a lot of ways, she makes me better.
So it's funny, you had the baby November 29th. And I think a couple days before, I was trying to schedule an interview with you with Parrish, Mason. He was trying to get us together, and he's like, well, she's at home now. She's due any day. And I'm like, you know what? That'd be I could interview her right after she gives birth. Wouldn't that be a good? No, we can't do that. So, but congratulations. First and foremost, I think it's great. But watching you, like, I came to practice, and you got her swaddled and on the court. Yeah. She started our interviews on your lap, and so how do you juggle that?
We're learning every day, every minute. But I think, in a weird way, our profession, being an athlete, has allowed me to understand it's just like anything, you got to adjust. Just like I'm in a game, if our defense is working, we got to find a way to adjust. It's the same with her. I think the hardest thing is I'm very regimented. And I think most head coaches you will talk to, right? My dad always says, great coaches find a way to get 25 hours out of 24, right? She doesn't make my life as easy to be as organized and type A as I like to be. But we just have to adjust. And what a cool problem to have is to have this 13-pound darling child forcing you to realize that, you know what, I'm not out here curing cancer. You know, I'm out here winning basketball games, and at the heart of it, I'm looking at you. You are the most now important thing in our world, but also what a humble reminder that I am coaching 14 daughters.
Yeah.
And these kids are someone else's baby, just like she's my baby. And in a way, I think that it's given me a little bit of perspective. You know, to be honest with you, and I actually texted this to Coach Wardle, we were tied at Murray. You know, they're the number one team in the league. Really wanted to beat them. We had the ball last possession on the road. And I looked up at my daughter. And I was like, wow, I'm a mom, and how cool is that? And if you had told me that's where my brain would be in that moment, you know, it's been really great. But it's obviously it's hard. It's challenging. Again, all the kudos to everyone at Bradley, my staff in particular, because they're allowing us to figure this out in real time. But it's really great. And again, it's hard, but I always say the joy is always on the other side of hard, and all the good stuff is on the other side of hard. So that's what we're embracing right now.
This is the F-Train Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. It's the F-Train Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD. Last time out, Bradley faced Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, Iowa. It was another opportunity for the Braves to earn a season series sweep and put space between them and sixth place, which earns the all-important bye for the Valley Tournament. In the first meeting, Bradley took the game in Peoria against a Northern Iowa team that had some injuries. Tristan Smith was down with a leg injury, and Will Hornseth was a game-time decision ruled out with a shoulder. In Cedar Falls, both those players were back, and Northern Iowa was back at full strength. Now, I have to admit, going into this game, my concern was physicality. The last 2 or 3, 4 years, Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls has played an extremely physical brand of basketball. This game was officiated fairly, but it was physical on both sides. In the first half, I thought Bradley handled it well. They didn't shoot well, but their defense was solid. They were down at halftime 30-23, and while their offense was only shooting roughly 21% from the field, they were holding Northern Iowa down at about 40% from the field. So their defense was doing enough until their offense could get going. The problem is Bradley's offense never got going. The physicality really had Bradley on its heels all evening long. And the second half, the defense started to break. Northern Iowa would balloon out to a lead of 19 with roughly 6.5 minutes to play, and would go on to win 61-49. Bradley would only shoot 33% on the night and only mustered 14 total field goals, and 9 of those were threes. Bradley was 5 of 19 from 2, and that is just not going to win many games, especially on the road. And here's something to think about. In Bradley's 4 Valley Road losses, they are a combined 50 of 143 from 2. Which is 35%. And that's just not good enough. I don't care how good your defense is, it's not going to win many games if you're only shooting 35% from 2. You also have to start looking at the wins that Bradley has compared to losses. To Bradley's credit, they have feasted on the bottom half of the league, where they are 9-1 against seeds 6 through 11. However, Bradley is currently 0-4 against seeds 1 through 5. Bradley's best Valley win so far is against a Northern Iowa squad at home that had a short bench due to injuries. Going forward, 4 of Bradley's remaining 6 games are against top 5 opponents. Now, currently, Bradley is sitting 3rd in the Valley, so they're in the mix. The good news about these remaining games is 3 of the 4 games against top 5 opponents are at home. And the top 5 teams, including Bradley, all have tough road schedules to finish out the season. So with 6 games to play, Bradley can set itself up for a strong finish that can catapult them into a good Valley tournament. They struggle in the closing games and limp into the Valley tournament. So here's what I'm asking you, Bradley fans. If you haven't been to a home game yet, or you're thinking of skipping a game down the stretch, don't. Bradley will be playing some strong opponents and will need help from the crowd to close out the season. So turning to tonight's game against Belmont, Bradley is playing a Belmont team that's hot. They're 22-3 on the season. The Bruins are sitting in first place at 12-2 in the Valley, and they've won 8 in a row. The Bruins are a very efficient offensive team, shooting 51% from the field and 42% from three, which both lead the Missouri Valley. Belmont also averages just over 10 made threes per game in Valley play. So all of this will test Bradley's defense. So the key for Bradley is obviously they need to shoot better overall, but they need to do a better job attacking the paint and not turning the ball over like they did in the last game. If they can do that and hold Belmont under 10 threes, I think they have a realistic shot of winning this game. Up next, Dave Snell gives the scouting report for Belmont on Braves Insight, followed by pregame comments from Coach Brian Wardle on the F3 Auto Group Braves Plus pregame show on 1470 and 100.3 WMBD.